You were really something. Unsurprisingly, the stove was already off, so I turned it back on and warmed up the hangover soup while my phone kept buzzing in my pocket. It was a text from Stella saying you didn't walk me out, but I'm not mad. Really, it's fine, so don't try to comfort me. It was inappropriate of me to drop by unannounced, and a dad trusts a childhood sweetheart more. I get it. And the hangover soup was bitter and gross anyway, so let that Chloe drink it. Forget it. The more I say, the pettier I look. Reading this, I figured she probably wasn't mad, and I don't know what Chloe told my dad. But by the time she got up to leave, an hour had passed. My dad told me to walk her out, and I was confused since she lives downstairs, so why walk her? Chloe's expression stiffened, and she said, "Yeah, I live downstairs, so no need to walk me." I sensed something was off, so when my dad spoke again, I didn't refuse. Once outside, Chloe quickly explained, "The apartment downstairs has been empty for a while and needs cleaning." Since she said that, I didn't press further, since it was none of my business anyway. When we got downstairs, I realized Stella hadn't left yet, and she saw me and Chloe walking down together, and her face instantly went cold, and she got into the car without a word. The silver Bentley sped off into the night wind, and my phone buzzed twice. It was Stella's voice message saying, "Chase until I see that 9,000-word essay. I won't say a single word to you, and if I back down this time, I'm a dog." And from that day on, Stella never sent another message and never showed up in front of me again. But Chloe acted like she couldn't understand human language and just wouldn't leave. To avoid her, I asked the caregiver to spend more time with my dad. My 9,000-word essay wasn't even done yet when the new monthly interview plan came out. And besides the planned guests, there was a name that shouldn't be there. I frowned and opened Stella's chat, wanting to ask about the interview, wondering if it was her idea or just the boss's random arrangement. Flashing back to how we parted on bad terms, I hesitated, not knowing how to start, and ended up just typing 3 words saying, "Are you busy?" Unsurprisingly, there was no reply, and then people around me started gossiping, saying Stella never does interviews. So why is her first TV spot given to Chase? He doesn't even compete, and just wants everyone to know he has connections. Stop talking about it. Since his interview with CEO Chloe went viral last week. Does he even have fans? And if it wasn't for Blake's flight delay, he never would have gotten the gig. And who knew he was such an ingrate? Who doesn't know how to be grateful and where there are people? There are clicks and gossip. I usually ignore it and was about to send another text to explain, when a familiar voice suddenly rang out saying, "You must be a great cook." Next time, I don't know when Blake was standing there, and just as he was blushing and about to nod, Stella slowly finished her sentence saying, "You are really good at shifting the blame, and so good at twisting the truth that it's a waste for you to be a host. You should just change careers and be a chef." And Blake's face burned from the sarcasm, wishing he could dig a hole and hide, and Stella's cold gaze swept across everyone, saying, "Please get it straight that failing to show up on time is a personal issue, and Chase stepped in to save the show, so he is the one who deserves the credit." The crowd dispersed, and I started feeling awkward. I explained to the furious Stella saying, "I remember the social rules you taught me. I just figured since we are colleagues, we have to see each other every day." Stella suddenly pinched my cheeks with 2 fingers, and soon my lips were forced to pout. She stared at me saying, "You look pretty good. So why can't your mouth say the right things?" Under her intense gaze, I swallowed all the explanations that were about to come out. I lowered my voice saying I was wrong. "Don't be mad, and why are you here?" All the anger Stella held inside instantly vanished at that soft voice, saying, "Because someone missed me, and aren't you going to ask if I'm busy?" Her fingertips suddenly applied force and tilted my chin up, pulling my body forward with hers, and her kiss came down, and after our lips parted, I heard 3 low barks by my ear saying, "Woof, woof, woof," and my heart skipped a beat. Warmth welled up in my eyes, and then I heard her say, "If I back down this time, I'm a dog." Chase, I backed down, and even though Stella has a big temper, she is especially good at coaxing herself, and what was more relieving than making up was that I didn't have to write the 9,000-word essay, and the magazine interview went live right after. Under Stella's public display of ownership, the fan base shipping Chloe and me was completely crushed. Stella was riding high, and her supermarkets were running back-to-back sales, hiring lion dance troops to perform until I got that phone call, "Chase, your dad is missing," and I hung up the phone, and rushed home, and Chloe found no one at home and called the caregiver only to find out my dad said he would be back and gave the caregiver the day off. But where could he go alone with his bad eyesight? And Chloe and I looked at each other and said in unison, "The high school." And if there is one dark memory from my student days, it is definitely the fact that the dean was my own dad, and since birth, I never saw my mother, and I relied entirely on my dad. He was a tough guy, and in middle school his only requirement for me was to get first place. And if I didn't get first place, I would get a massive scolding. Ever since Chloe caught me getting scolded, I would always see her around, sometimes coming to ask questions with a test paper, and sometimes making up excuses to pull me away. After a few times, my dad figured out her intentions, but she shamelessly stayed in the office, and my dad had no choice but to let me off the hook. And the deepest rift between my dad and me happened on the day I applied to an art school with a college entrance exam score of 687. That was the first time I didn't hear my dad scold me, and under his exhausted and disappointed gaze, I was kicked out of the house, and my dad angrily said, "From now on, I don't have a son like you." And when Chloe found me, I was squatting in front of the school bulletin board where the exam scores were posted. I turned to look at Chloe with eyes full of confusion, asking, was I too selfish, and did I really make a mistake? And did I make him mad again and returning to the school now? Passing the bulletin board, I couldn't help but ask Chloe that same question. She was silent for 2 seconds and gave the exact same answer as back then. "Chase, you are yourself first before you are your dad, son." Chloe took me in back then, and she was the one who broke down my dreams piece by piece and explained them to my dad. And she was also the one who, when my dad wavered, recommended my internship radio station to him, and she slowly mended the gap between my dad and me. So when she faced a massive debt, I couldn't say no to her. But now everything is in the past, and I stopped walking and turned to look at Chloe firmly, saying thank you for taking care of me all these years, and thank you for coming to find my dad with me. But Chloe, you came to find my dad, but Chloe, all you feel for me now is guilt. You just want to make up for it, and 3 years ago, Chloe quickly interrupted me saying no, and she knew what the rest of the sentence would be. Feeling an indescribable taste in her heart like all the snake gall in the world was churning in her stomach, and she moved her lips and spoke with a bit of self-mockery saying, "Chase the apartment downstairs from yours. I sold it, and I didn't take Stella's 50 million, and Mr. Jang was found. He is right on the other side of the bulletin board where the honored teachers are posted. His eyes are blurry, so he could only find the spot with his photo by memory. He didn't turn around but knew it was us. He spoke with nostalgia, saying I really miss the old days at the school, and changed the subject, calling me by my full name. Do you know what kind of family Stella comes from? And do you know how huge the gap is between us?" I spoke up saying I know when he asked me. "Then do you know she has a fiancé?" And I paused and answered honestly saying I didn't know. "Dad, that doesn't matter." And my dad was furious, asking me that doesn't matter, then what does? "Do you want to end up like me being judged and raising a kid all alone?" These words were practically torn out of my dad's mouth, and it was the first time I saw him so emotional. And it was also the first time he brought up my background, and he softened his tone. Chloe is basically like a daughter to me, and you two grew up together. She has the brains and the looks, a happy family and a successful career, and she is filial. And knowing my eyes are bad this time, she came back. She looked into a lot of specialists for me, and a foreign expert said, there is a 50% chance my eyes can see again after surgery. And Chase, didn't you say your station has an advanced training spot? Will you go with your dad? And the day after I found out Stella had a fiance, she found me, and the day after I found out Stella had a fiance, she found me, and Owen was completely different from his name, with short silver hair and a sharp suit. He was a handsome man with an aggressive vibe, and he raised an eyebrow at me, saying, you really are a handsome guy, and even I am tempted. My eyelid twitched, and I quickly asked, Mr. Owen, what can I do for you? And he spoke, it's simple, I want your woman, so name your price. It really was a classic plot, and before I could refuse, Owen continued to ask, have you guys slept together? How was his performance? And I can pay extra based on the hours. I keenly sensed something was off, because if he was engaged to Stella, he should be asking how much to make me leave, not how much to buy a man. And he even used the word pay extra, so obviously, the woman he was talking about had lower social status and financial power than him. I tested the waters and asked the woman Mr. Owen is talking about is. Owen gave me a weird look and said, Chloe, obviously. I actually felt a strange sense of relief and asked how much. Stella was so obsessed with showing off her relationship that her friends blocked her on social media. But it was fine because she made a group chat and sent over 100 posed photos she carefully picked out, saying, see if anything is different about me today, I'll forget it. You single people would never guess, but my husband bought this dress today and put it on me himself. And it looks good, right? And it's definitely a different taste than you women pick. The group was filled with ellipses, and Stella was used to their robotic replies. And just as she was about to keep showing off, a random number suddenly called. She never answers unknown numbers, but answered it on a whim, and the voice on the other end wasn't very clear. But she clearly caught the keywords childhood sweetheart filial, foreign expert and radio station training spot. The voice stopped right there on the other side.